Hello, I'm Spoo-e and welcome to a rather different video. You're thinking, oh, this isn't a gaming video. You are correct. This is going to be a mental awareness video. I'm going to talk a little bit about depression and anxiety. Now, a lot of people out there do already suffer from it. However, there still is a bunch of people who know nothing about it. And may have the attitude, oh, just man up, blah 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 blah. I wanted to make a video because, you know, I've been affected by it for 6 years now, and it does get very tiring. I just wanted to give you my view on depression and anxiety. So if you don't know what depression is more than unhappiness. It's more than sadness. It's just complete darkness and hopelessness that someone falls into. It's a feeling that makes you feel trapped and that you can't get out and there's no escape. And it can make it feel like the whole world is collapsing down on you. It feels like you're sinking into a very dark pit or hole that you can't escape out of, and it just gets darker and darker. It feels like there's no hope, there's no, light, there's nothing. Just pure sadness and unhappiness. And it's basically a state of feeling unhappy, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. And then it affects loads and loads of different things. For example, you're sleeping, you're eating, everyday life activities that you do. And unfortunately, this is why I think depression, being a mental illness, is actually deadly. I mean, we're not talking a disease here, we're not talking, say, cancer. We're talking about a mental illness that can drive you to the point where you've completely had enough and you don't know what to do anymore. And it gets to the point where you suffer so much and you've felt so much pain that you can't deal with anything anymore. And it's at that point some people, unfortunately, have taken their lives. And it's not just, say, poor people either. It can be even rich people. The recent one from... Shit, this is a Spoo-e moment. I can't actually fucking remember their name. But it was someone very recently that died. He was in a musical band or something. He hung himself, unfortunately. Obviously, he's got a lot of money, he's got a lot going for him. And it just proves that even money doesn't solve something like depression or anxiety. There was someone that I knew, his name being Little Chris, and he was from a town called Lowestoft near me. I used to watch him on, I think it was like a kids program. He used to be on some of the music videos, and his life was going for him. He's young, around about my age, maybe a little bit older, and he had everything going for him. Young age, and he was found dead in his house, and it was suspected suicide. This can usually be a very difficult thing to talk about, and it has started to get difficult with me on how to talk about it and what to say next, because obviously it makes you feel, it drags you into that dark zone, and if anything, you want to stay away from it. So I'm going to start with what makes someone depressed. Now, usually it's a very difficult question to answer. I've had it a few times Why are you depressed, Spoo-e? Why do you suffer from depression, Spoo-e? That's not really a good question to ask. Not because it's rude, but because, one, it can make the person feel low, because obviously you're asking them to go back and think why, and usually it brings back bad thoughts. And second of all, it's a very difficult question to answer, as in why you're in a depression, because sometimes people might not know why they're in a depression, but it always starts off with that there's an event in your life that starts it all off. There might be a few events. There's a trigger to why it goes off. There's an event. Maybe you've been treated badly as a young adult. Maybe you were bullied. Maybe your parents died, and or maybe a very close friend of yours died. So that's like some of the reasons why you would go into a depression. Now, as it goes for treatment, this is what I believe. Some people are like, oh, do tablets work? Do tablets work? Do they cure it? I'm going to answer that in my opinion. Do tablets cure it? No. There is no medication on Earth currently that cures it. Unfortunately, that's the case. Does it work? Some medication may not work for some people. Some treatment may not work for some people. But does it work? Yes. It does work, but it doesn't work as a cure. It works as a sort of solution. It works as, say, you're in a very dark pit, and basically the medication or treatment is basically someone throwing down a rope to you, and it's basically all up to you to grab the rope and pull yourself back up. With medication, yes, it does work if you find the right medication. And what I mean by does it work is it basically takes the edge off things. For me, for example, I was in a very severe depression at the time, and I was put on antipsychotics, being quetiapine. They helped me a lot. It suppressed a lot of the it was suppressing a lot of symptoms that I was getting in my depression. It sort of suppressed them. It just made them less strong, and you had less and less incidents of whatever was going on. So it helped me a lot. It stopped me from seeing things. It stopped me from hearing things as strong as I was seeing before. I used to see things, I used to hear things. It got to that point in my depression. It got so bad I started getting psychotic symptoms. I was hearing things, and I was also seeing things in corners of rooms. And it's not like the sort of, because some people get sort of the very dark, like whatever it is at the corner of their eye. Some people say it's ghosts, some people say it's just your mind playing games on you, some people say it's just an object at the corner of your eye that you can't see any details of, and it's just there. Unfortunately, it gained strength in this seeing of things and hearing of things. It didn't become like a floorboard creak or someone calling your name when no one was actually calling your name. These were sort of like phrases and sentences and objects that I started to pick out detail on. I used to see things in the corners of the room. It was very dark, had four limbs, was hairy, had sharp teeth, and the closest thing that I can picture it to is a werewolf, but it wasn't a werewolf. It's the closest thing that I can picture it to. I'm not sure what on earth it was, but it used to just stay there in the corner of the room and would just watch me. Wouldn't move, wouldn't growl, wouldn't make a noise, would just watch me. I also had at some point faces coming at me from the sides of my face, approaching and then closing in. These faces were textured. You could see the eyes, you could see the eyelashes. The faces were very pale. They had no facial hair, and they had they had like a human face, but their teeth wasn't sort of like rounded at the bottom like most teeth are. These were very sharp, unhuman-like teeth, and these faces would come at me, and their mouth would open, you know, sort of. They sort of would come at you, and they'd sort of like try and bite at your face. And it got to the point where I would whimper and sort of move my head away like this, and I could feel my heart sink every time this thing happened. And it got to the point where they had to put me on this quetiapine. And the quetiapine zombified me. It made me asleep from the point that I got out of bed and took the tablet, and then got back into bed that very night. So I get up in the morning, you know, that sleepy feeling you get, say if you go to the toilet, you wake up in the middle of the night, and you get that very sort of sleepy feeling. You get that from the moment you wake up in the morning to the moment you fall asleep again back that night. That feeling all day. You are absolutely zombified. However, it suppressed all of these voices and all these things that I was seeing. Now, the voices I were getting were, unfortunately, could be to some very scary. To me, it was scary, but at the same time, unexplained feelings about them. I would get voices telling me to obviously harm myself, but the stronger voices were when I was out and about in the streets, say in a shop, and they would tell me to kill people, and it would repeat itself over and over again, saying kill, kill, kill. And it wouldn't be, it was like my voice, but it wasn't my voice. It was a stronger voice, a deeper voice, a more vicious sort of sounding me voice. However, the quetiapine sorted all of that, and it suppressed it all. I now haven't been on quetiapine for a year. I slowly came off it by overseeing from a doctor, obviously. I wasn't going to do it just by myself and just on my own. A doctor helped me out, and it took me a year, not a year to fully get off, I'd say a few months to get off it. And now I've almost been without a year without taking one quetiapine. Unfortunately, I am still on medication, and the medication slows my sort of thought process and brain down, and a lot of people can say that I'm stupid or dumb. Some of my friends laugh about it and call me retarded, but it's dark humour. They obviously don't mean it. I know them in person, and they don't mean it. It's just dark humour, and I do laugh along, and I do agree. Sometimes I am in there, I quote, retarded. At times I do some really weird stuff, I say some really weird stuff, I stutter a lot. Apparently that's all due to the medication I'm taking, and obviously what I'm going through. Depression and anxiety is it's very heavy on your brain, it's very stressful and it's very exhausting, so it really does slow you down. Now anxiety is also an illness I would class, and basically it's your fight and flight response pretty much going all the time. It's like a smoke alarm going when you're trying to cook your food, when there's actually nothing wrong. Your food's maybe a little bit burnt on the outside, a little bit crispy or whatever. So your bacon is a really good one to test your smoke alarms on, because the fat, I think, cooks quite quickly and then starts to burn and crisp, and then your smoke alarm goes off. That's basically anxiety in a nutshell. It's basically an alarm going off when there's actually nothing wrong, there's no danger, and it just makes you panic. It makes everything difficult. It makes everything difficult for me. Now you might be wondering somewhere in your head, why haven't I done anything because of depression? Why hasn't it pushed me to the point of wanting to commit suicide? And I'm going to admit, every day I think about it. I'm not going to lie, I think about it every single day. I think about, what would life be like if I were to just go one day? How would people react? How would their lives be different? How would my friends go on? How would it impact my parents? How would it impact my brother? And there's a really good reason why it hasn't pushed me over the edge. It's because of loved ones. They stop me. My mother stops me. My brother stops me. My friends stop me. They all stop me because they love me. It stops me from doing it because I know they don't want me to do it, and it sort of breaks my heart if I try to think about doing it and then think about them. Also, there's things in life I'd like to experience, like certain holidays, certain locations, certain games that are wanting to come out, certain movies I want to see. I think I'm going to call this video short, and hopefully this is a tip for you. If any of you do feel down at points, if any of you do feel anxious or on the edge, think of reasons why you wouldn't want to. Think about any loved ones, think about anything you'd like to do in your life that you haven't yet had the chance of doing. Think about places, thinking about people, think about, I don't know, food, if you like food, if there's something that you really want to try, food. Think of that, movies, games, anything. My message is, don't give up. For 6 years I haven't given up. It's not been easy. Some days I haven't really struggled, and other days I've really struggled. But don't give up. In time, things will improve and will get better, just as things have improved for me and gotten a lot better. I'm going to be off now, so I'll see you next time on any video I make next. Bye!